for 3 positions this past week, and one of them I want to comment on because it's historic, especially since she just walked in. Sergeant Doretta Santos was elected as the first African-American director of the Los Angeles Police Protective League. This is significant because in the 90-year history of the police union, she is the first African-American elected to the board of directors, and I'm not only proud of her accomplishment in that regard, but also because she is a tremendous person and will be a wonderful representative for the rank and file, and I just couldn't be happier. It's a historic moment, but she brings so much more than just that piece of history. So thank you, Doretta. And then my comments on crime. We are continuing to do well as we close in on the end of the year. Violent crime down 11.5% as compared to 2012, and 18% compared to 2011. Homicides down 13.3%. Rapes are down almost 25%. Robberies down 12.5%. Aggravated assaults down 9%. These are really strong numbers this year. My continued worry is that people will get used to constant crime and decline in crime, and think that is business as usual. And I have to emphasize that it is because of the extremely hard work of the men and women of the Los Angeles Police Department that these numbers exist. They're not just happenstance. Property crime down in the aggregate 3.1%, led by a reduction in motor vehicle theft of 5.8%. And the closest thing we have to a increase is a burglary theft from vehicle, and that's a 1.1% decrease. But it is we're close on that category. Total Part 1 crime is down just under 5%. Gang crime is down a total of 17%. Citywide, shootings are down, as are victims shot. Shootings are down citywide 12.5%, and numbers of victims shot down 13.5%. Personnel statistics. We graduate an academy class tomorrow, as you are well aware. We will begin another class in late December. Right now we have 31 individuals scheduled for that class. We have 9,897 sworn personnel on payroll. We have 275 level 1 reserves, 22 level 2s, 131 level 3s, 392 specialist volunteers, 44 chaplains, 2,807 civilian personnel, 540 civilian vacancies, and we have approximately 4,010 cadets now serving. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Number 3 on the agenda is the report of the Executive Director, Mr. T.
Good morning, Mr. President, members of the Commission. Just a brief item again, scheduling to remind the public and members of the Department. There will be no meeting next week, December 3rd, due to the short week this week with the Thanksgiving holiday. We will meet in December on December 10th and December 17th. Will be dark December 24th and December 31st due to the holidays, and our first regular meeting in 2014 will be January 7th. That concludes my report.
Thank you. Number 4 on the agenda is the report of the Inspector General, Mr. Bustamante.
Thank you, Commissioners. I have nothing to report.
Thank you. Item number 5 consists of information items and filed items relative to noise variances and special event permits submitted for the period ending November 22nd, 2013. Item number 6 are presentations. Do we have any presentations?
No, we do not.
Okay. Item number 7 is the consent agenda item. These items are considered to be routine and non-controversial, upon which the board is provided with adequate information for approval without inquiry or discussion. Would a commissioner wish to pull the one item?
No. So we'll move approval.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. We are now on item number 8, regular agenda items. Item 8A and 8B are verbal presentations. Would a commissioner wish to pull item 8B or C, special for discussion? I'm sorry, 8C and D.
C or D? I think it's worthy of pulling C just to get a little bit more background.
Oh, I'm sorry, I wanted to pull C.
Okay,
I thought we said yes.
okay. So then we,
For motion on D?
yes, we have a motion for D, approval of D.
So moved.
All those in favor? Aye,
Aye.
okay. We're going back to A now, the
We're go-
presentation.
Back. A is a verbal presentation and update from the Commanding Officer and Community Police Advisory Board representative regarding community-initiated problem-solving, crime strategies, and other programs and goals within the Hollenbeck area.
You're okay with, I was okay with
Good morning, Commissioners. Chief Beck.
this. Morning.
I am Martin Baeza. I'm the commanding officer of Hollenbeck area. And to my left, your right, is Ms. Margarita Amador, who is the co-chair for the Community Police Advisory Board at Hollenbeck. And to my right is Magna Telachea, who's going to assist us with the presentation. Slide, please. Just to give you an overview of Hollenbeck, Hollenbeck is one of the oldest divisions in the department. The substation originally opened in 1889 with one officer, and the first station was built in 1912 and renamed Hollenbeck Heights. The community that's served right now by Hollenbeck is approximately 200,000 people. The 2010 census estimated it about 176,000, but because it's an immigrant community, we pretty much have assumed that it's a little bit more than that. Hollenbeck Station has a brand new station that opened in 2009, and today the community is served by 276 officers. The Hollenbeck crime stats are very impressive this year, and I'm very proud to say that we're ranked number 4 in overall Part 1 crime and reduction with a 9.9%. Violent crime, we're ranked number 3 in the department with a 20% reduction, and we're ranked number 7 in property crime with a 6.9% reduction. Hollenbeck area has 7 senior lead officers and 1 transient SLO, which is a result of a collaboration between the Community Police Advisory Board as one of the goals for 2013. Slide. Some of the community outreach efforts that we have in Hollenbeck really incorporate a unique business model between the Police Business Association of Hollenbeck, which is comprised of Hollenbeck business owners that really have a model that supports not only the Hollenbeck Police Station, but the community, where they have give-backs to the community in ways of funding. The most particular is they give out 6 youth achievement awards of $500 each every year. And then we also have a very robust volunteer program consisting of 50 volunteers that assist with a gamut of duties, including desk duties, language translations, crisis intervention, and just general cleanup. Next slide, please. We're very proud of our youth programs at Hollenbeck. The first one I'd like to just mention is our Police Activities League. It services about 1,000 at-risk youth every year between the age of 4 and 18. And it comes with a very robust program, not only sports and recreation, gang and intervention programs, but also leadership mentoring and parenting classes, which is very, very successful. We also have a very robust cadet program. I think Hollenbeck has one of the largest cadet posts in LAPD with 144 cadets, and we're continuing to grow. We just recently graduated 32 cadets at this last graduation. And now I'm going to give it over to Margarita Amador, my co-chair, to talk a little bit about CPAB.
Good morning, Commissioners. The Community Police Advisory Board, one of our missions is to promote and assist community policing, to serve as the voice of the community, foster positive relationships between the community and the department. We are a board that's diverse and made up, a makeup board, and we currently have 15 members, and 10 of those members are active members. Some of our accomplishments are working in partnership with the police activities leagues, as well as working in partnership with the anti-bullying campaign. And currently, we have established Teen CPAB, and one of our goals is to implement that and have that be one of our goals for 2014. Some of our accomplishments have been the crime prevention, which is the Lock It, Hide It, Keep It campaign. Our police advisory board and our community police business association have partnered with the station in promoting the campaign in means of partnering with our neighborhood council in Boyle Heights, who generously donated funding in order for us to provide free steering wheel locks, as well as security screws to the community members that are owners of the cars that have been identified. And through that, we were able to support our civilian academy. We have a graduation scheduled December 4th. We have our neighborhood watch training that's held by one of our members yearly in order to promote and create community neighborhood watches in the Hollenbeck area. One of the biggest accomplishments at our Community Police Advisory Board is that we are responsible for coordinating our National Night Out event. And every year we have over 500 people attend our event. And it's all through our leverages and partnerships in the neighborhood. We partner with our local government, our clergy, as well as our nonprofit organizations, and we're able to provide an amazing event. I invite you all to come one year. We also have taken a very strong stance on reducing our ABC licenses. Hollenbeck is very condensed with the licenses, and our goal is to continue to reduce those numbers, and by attending any hearings that are potential new applicants, as well as working with our council member in ensuring that he knows our position of no more new licenses. Our goals for 2013 have been to address the issues of homelessness, illegal street vending, and again, ABC licenses. Some of the progresses that we do in order to address these, again, is to continue to work with the businesses in addressing the illegal vending issue, as well as with their council member, reducing ABC locations, as well as working with the transient senior lead officer to address the issue of the homelessness. We look forward to 2014 in trying to create recruit additional members to join our police advisory board. We will have some community service projects that we will implement in 2014, develop our Teen CPAB, and to maintain the integrity of CPAB while being proactive.
How do you do your recruitment? Just word of mouth, word of mouth?
Right now, it's word of mouth, Mr. President.
Do it.
Yeah, we try to encourage people who attend CPAP to bring friends, to bring neighbors, and then we're also reaching out at any community event where we're going to set up booths to talk about CPAP and also distribute the crime prevention materials also.
Great, thank you.
At this moment, I'd like to share one of our videos that one of our community members put together to highlight our National Night event, and I'd like for you to allow us the time to share that with you.
Okay. It's on our, it's not like we're not looking, it's on our screen right in
Oh, right.
front.
No.
Councilmember Jose Huizar, with Speaker John Pettis. When we work together collectively, and our new mayor, Eric Garcetti, we take back our community. We take back what belongs to each and every one of us, to our community. And this is important symbolically because we raise our voices in unity. And what we say here is that this belongs to us.
Amigo, before we go, I just want to give a special thanks. Yes, I want to give a special thanks to Councilman Jose Huizar and also Councilman Cedillo. They couldn't make it today, but we want to acknowledge them and thank them for everything they do for the Hollenbeck community. Also, Mayor Garcetti, who is making his rounds, and hopefully he'll be able to stop by a little later. So with that, please enjoy the festivities, please enjoy some food, and welcome to National Night Out here in Hollenbeck. Thank you.
Making me hungry. So what were the results?
Well, the results is we had over 500 participants. We served over 600 plates of food that particular day, but really the goal was to engage the community. And we've been very successful in engaging the community, in them coming out, not only supporting the Hollenbeck Police Station, but really taking responsibility for their own neighborhoods. That's one of the goals that we're trying to continue on next year, with recruiting more members, being more proactive, being more involved with the community, because this CPAB board, although we only have 10 active members, they're very active in all the communities of Hollenbeck, which engages them to come in. We've also are developing the Teen CPAB to help them grow so that they themselves can also take ownership of their neighborhoods. We're very excited about our accomplishments this year, and we're really looking forward to next year.
Very proud.
Yeah, we're very
Good job.
proud. If there's no other questions, Commissioners?
Questions?
I have a question.
Yeah,
Yes,
go
ma'am.
ahead.
I was lucky to go out on a ride-along with Sergeant Miguel Lopez. He was excellent, but you guys were really busy that night that I went. And I think one of the concerns that I had, and you mentioned it as one of your goals, is liquor license, new liquor license. I was concerned about those that, because I saw a lot of what I saw in my own community in Echo Park. We have a lot of new businesses, restaurants selling liquor, and a lot of the restaurants look like mini bars. People, it was just it just triggered some of the stuff we were able to do in my community. And the only way we were able to work with the restaurants and some of the bars there that become problem bars, the police can't do it alone. It really takes the CPAB and the community to really address it, and the council member as things come up. What are some of for the new bars, you go to the hearings, they may or may not listen. By right, many get them. But at least we're being heard, and at least we're at the table now to talk about it before they get the licenses. How do we manage what's going to go on at that place? But the current, is there a strategy for the current location, I call them problem areas or
Yes,
problem locations that really, they need to be, controlled or a strategy so that things happen, that things shouldn't happen.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I know what you mean.
I'm being very careful with my words.
Absolutely. In Hollenbeck, we have 238 ABC locations in a 15.5 square mile area. And the board, the CPAB board, along with Councilman Huizar and Cedillo, have taken the posture of not supporting any new ABC licenses to come into the area. The only new businesses that will open with ABC license will have to be a per-to-per, a person-to-person transfer of an existing license. And we have gotten the reassurance from the councilman's office, both councilmen, that they would support that posture. CPAP has actually been very successful in writing letters to the ABC board in support of that posture and not allowing new ABC licenses to come into the area. In addition to that, from the enforcement standpoint, our Vice unit is very proactive in monitoring the Vice locations, including new locations that want to come up and be bars and want to be locations where they have parties and raves and rent them out. So we're very cautious of that. One of the issues or one of the things that I enjoy as a captain is the communication between the CPAP board and myself, that they're telling me what's going on in the community so that we can address it both from the community level, the councilman level, the community organization group level, and also the police level. So it is a team effort. Would you like to add anything else?
One of the things that I do as the co-chair is that I do work closely with Vice when new applications come forth, and I do myself go to the hearing, and I actually do a formal presentation taking our position, opposing any new licenses. And just as a community member and part of CPAB, we do have a relationship with the department where, you know, if there is a problem bar or a problem liquor store, we do report that to the Vice unit, and they go out and do what they need to do. But I think in Hollenbeck, we are very, we advocate against the license pretty heavy. We work in partnership with, Father Moretta from Resurrection Church, who's a very strong supporter of any new licenses as well. So we have that foundation where I think we've made the message very clear that we will not allow additional licenses in Hollenbeck area.
Martin, it might be helpful if you would explain to the commissioners how your Vice unit works and what kind of enforcement they do on existing locations and that kind of thing.
Absolutely. We have a Vice unit that consists right now of one sergeant, 4 officers, and 2 PED officers. So we have a small unit. But nonetheless, what we do in regards to any problem location that is being brought to our attention, and also because we have so many ABC licenses, the locations really are on a rotation in regards to regular checks in compliance with actually the conditional use permits issued out by the police commission. If we do have a problem location, we will work it from different levels. One of them is the enforcement level, where the officers will go in and operate it as undercover plainclothes officers. But also, we also like to partner with the traffic divisions to make sure that we're not having these issues roll out into the street. So the enforcement is at multiple levels. The Vice unit is very busy in regards to the ABC locations, and that also includes sales to juveniles, where we utilize 18-year-old members of our cadet program to be decoys to go in and operate and try to buy liquor from these stores that we're getting complaints from. We also do shoulder tap operations, where we also use cadets to ask people to purchase alcohol for them so that we can send out that message. We also utilize that Vice unit we focus their efforts also in the areas where we're seeing spikes in crime. So it is a multi-level enforcement action, utilizing the police commission, utilizing traffic, utilizing our cadets, and also working with the community, especially CPAB when we discuss it in our boards.
Thank you.
We do have 2 public comment cards on this item. We have Monica Harmon, followed by Martha Cisneros.
Good morning. Although I'm a CPAB volunteer at Pacific, I help various divisions throughout Los Angeles. I call Hollenbeck my second home. I was one of the first female cadets out of Hollenbeck. The station is named after one of my mentors, Captain De Leon. Historically, Boyle Heights has always had strong community support. The thing about the community is we organize, we're doers, we get our message out, whether we oppose something or not. Hollenbeck is unique because many of the SLOs grew up in Boyle Heights. They went to the schools, they know the families, they know the old veterano gangsters, and it's an added asset to have that lot of patrol officers grew up there. I am very proud of my Speak Out Against Bullying campaign. One of the largest school assemblies I've had in 3 years was with Captain Baeza. It was with 1,500 students. I used my anti-bullying campaign to promote LAPD youth programs. We did it yesterday with Olympic Division. I've been doing it for 3 years, and it's been great. One of the best accomplishments for Hollenbeck, I believe, because I've been there since, okay, don't repeat this, the 70s, is Ramona Gardens. I mean, the wonderful transformation has just been incredible. We're bringing back the Santa sleigh. You know, commissioners, if any of you are available, you have to see it to believe it and see how the community reacts. The other thing is I put together pamphlets for you of all of the successes we as community members that we've accomplished. And I have a DVD of a news coverage of one of the greatest marches I've ever been proud to be part of. In 2002, over 500 community members marched from the old Hollenbeck Station to Parker Center in support of LAPD officers, because at that time homicides were up. No other community has ever done it. Thank you so much.
Martha Cisneros.
Good morning, Commissioners. I've been a resident of Boyle Heights for over 50 years, and I've gone through a few captains, and Captain Baez has been very welcoming. I'm very glad that he's part of our station and our captain, and thank you.
Thank you.
That is the final comment card, Mr. President.
I just wanted to,
Oh, go ahead.
I just want to add a comment that I agree. Captain Baeza is really welcoming, and I had the pleasure of visiting Hollenbeck Station a little while ago, and the community engagement is really clear, and I very much appreciate the relationship with Dolores Mission. We at our law school we have this immigration clinic that serves the non-citizen residents and that are parishioners of Dolores Mission and non-citizen residents of Boyle Heights. And so thanks so much for all of your incredible work, and thanks for presenting today.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
Item number 8B is next. That's Department's verbal presentation and discussion relative to the Los Angeles Police Reserve Corps.
Good morning, Commissioners. Good morning, Chief Beck. I am Deputy Chief Mark Perez, Commanding Officer of Personnel and Training Bureau, and with me is Lieutenant Tom Morrell, the officer in charge of the Reserve Officer and Volunteer Unit. The reserves under the department manual fall under Personnel and Training Bureau, which is why I'm here to represent that. But the real nuts and bolts of the operation of the reserves resides with Lieutenant Morrell. So as we talk about the reserves, it'll be mostly Lieutenant Morrell talking. And if there's any policy issues or anything like that, I will discuss that. But I'd like to hand it over to Tom now so he can give you the briefing on it. And if you have any technical questions, then we will be happy to answer those as well.
Great, thanks. Tom?
Originally, the reserves were used as a supplement to the loss of department personnel during World War II. And then they were institutionalized as an official category in 1947. They include people from all walks of life, various businesses, students, even city councilmen. And then today, basically, they follow the same police officer standard training as all other full-time officers, and the same qualifications, the same training, the same background check, everything. They do attend a different type of academy. It's an expanded academy. So instead of the 6-month regular basic academy, they do it over the course of modules, 3 modules to get it done. They're not employees, they're volunteers. We give them a $50 a month stipend to cover equipment, fuel, whatever they need once the original equipment is issued. There's no benefits or salary. They do receive medical coverage if there's an injury on the job, just for the purpose of making them whole. They commit to volunteer for 32 hours every 2 deployment periods. It's approximately 16 hours a month, and that's the police officer standard training standard. They work patrol, administrative duties, parades, special events, task force, whatever they're needed for, they work. We have 303 of the reserves that are actually assigned to the 21 geographic divisions, and the rest are assigned to specialized entities within the department, serving in that capacity. The level 1 reserves have the exact same authority, 24-hour police officer status as full-time officers, and there's 272 of those. The level 2, there's 22 of those. They have the same status as officers, except only on duty, not off duty, so they don't have a weapon off duty, and 24-hour police officer status. And then we have 2 types of level 3 reserves, armed and unarmed reserves, depending if they've went to the certification for firearms training that officers receive. And a total of those are 113. 55 are armed and 78 are unarmed. The modules start off with Module 3. It's 144 hours, and once somebody has completed that, they can be a Level 3 reserve. Level 3 reserve can't do any enforcement or anything that would be crime enforcement related in the field. They would work at a command post in a safe zone, or at a DUI checkpoint, or within the station, wherever the commanding officer that they're assigned to would assign them that's within their training and capabilities. And then a Level 2 reserve goes to the Module 2 Academy. In addition to the 144 hours, they'll receive another 189 hours of the same learning demands that the full-time police officers receive, just the additional 189 hours. And then they're a Level 2 reserve. And then the Level 1 reserve receives an additional 394 hours. So they've had a total of 727 hours, which is exactly the same as the state standard for all police officers. Now, our regular basic academy, 6-month academy, receives a little bit more because that's mandated training that we have internally and from the police commission, but the reserves receive the state mandated minimums. And then once they're on, they get additional training that they're required to have 24 hours every 2 years from post standard. They also have to have 14 hours of which is perishable skills, just like full-time officers, exactly the same. And they also have to qualify. The Level 3 reserves only have to have 16 hours of in-service training. They don't have to have the full training as everybody else because they don't work in the enforcement capacity. And then there's also a probationary period for the Level 1 reserves. It's 400 hours and 300 hours for the Level 2, and there's no probationary period for the Level 3. They can immediately begin working in the stations. For recruitment purposes, every first and third Thursday at Personnel Division in the evening, we have 2 of our reserves that make a very comprehensive presentation, and we have between 40 and 50 people that come to that every Tuesday and Thursday.
Where are those presentations made?
Personnel Division, 700 East Temple.
It's always downtown.
Right. And then they follow up with those individuals to try to get them in the process. And usually that number is very, very small once they see the presentation, see what kind of sacrifices necessary to make that the reserves make and how much time it is and how much training. It's very difficult to get them from there through that same process with the background of the medical, the psychological, and all the stuff that a full-time officer has to overcome to be hired. So they have to do that exact same standard. There's no different standard whatsoever. And then we have some future tentative academies set up coming up this next year, starting with the Level 3 in May. That's predicated on having enough people to attend the academy, which we need at least 10 to make it worth the investment in terms of logistics for instructors. And right now we have 5. And then sometimes those will just join the full-time academy. We have a firearms enhancement after that to make up for the people who went through the prior Level 3 that want to be armed, and to prepare the next Level 2 academy, which is in October, for people who are already Level 3s that want to move up to the next level, to Level 2, and be able to do enforcement action. And once they do that, we have next year a Level 1 academy, the next year after that, 2015, for anybody who's already a Level 2 to become 24-hour sworn capability. And that is basically it. We've broken down our payment into 3 stipend periods because we have 13 deployment periods instead of what Post has 12 months. We break it down into 2 4-month periods and 1 5-month period, and that's how we track the amount of hours that they commit.
How are you financed? You have a foundation. I see.
Well, the department
Is there,
pays the stipend through
Yeah.
the controller's office.
Right.
But the Reserve Foundation is a private organization that will, for example, the board will get together and maybe buy a piece of equipment
I see.
for a specialized entity maybe. But other than that,
I
that's
see.
independent financing. So if somebody's assigned, for example, to the range and there's a special type of equipment vest or something,
Yeah.
they would consider that request from the reserves themselves and decide to buy 8 or 10 for the reserve officers that are assigned to work the range.
I got an email this morning that your current president is resigning from the Police Reserve Foundation for just personal health reasons and stuff, but did a great job, I think.
Yeah, I was unaware of that.
Yeah.
I have a question.
Yeah.
Good morning. The reserve officers, it sounds like, have a lot of the same training as full-time officers. And only because I am completely a novice at this, is it that reserve officers don't become full-time officers because they have other jobs and don't want to give them up? Particularly for a reserve officer who is classified to be armed 24/7. I'm just curious as to why they're reserve and not full-time.
It's just them wanting to make a contribution to the community.
Yeah.
So they have a business or they're employed somewhere else and they have a career and they want that career to continue. And then they have some time and so they, or some expertise, and then they want to make that commitment.
And-
So it's very similar to, firefighters that might be a part-time
Volunteer.
reserve, volunteer type situation.
And do you ever have circumstances where reserves do apply to be full-time?
Yes, and mostly
Officers.
that's at the initial recruitment level. On the recruitment application, you can mark both boxes or one box or either box. And because of the standards we have at city personnel, a lot of the things like the medical, they expire after a certain period of time. So if we don't get enough people to go into academy and they don't have another job or they're willing to give up that job or take a leave from their company or whatever that they're with, then they'll just go straight into the basic academy like anybody else and finish it in the 6 months. Some of them, very rare, but will then go ahead and become a reserve at that point. But most of them will just be full-time. But we have it many times where people have become a reserve after the basic academy.
Can I ask about that they qualify for the medical, that they pass the medical, and then you said it expires after a certain amount of time?
Right. When you take the medical examination, there's different parts of the city personnel in terms of background and medical that after a certain period of time, you have to go back and do more background again because the last time you did your application, for example, maybe was a year ago. So they'll do a background from that period on to the current. Same thing with the medical one. There's a time limit. I think it's 1 year for the medical.
And does that complicate if a reserve academy isn't held in the time in which your medical authorization is current? Does that complicate it at all? Do you have to go back and get re-medically certified and
Right.
try to time it to the next academy?
For example, we have some level 3 reserves that have been on a very long time before they had the standard they have now for medical. So when they want to go to level 2, personnel tells us the names, we send emails to them, make an appointment, they go get recertified for medical. Now they can go to the level 2 academy. Same thing happens with people who just come off the street. If it's a long enough period of time, then the city requires that they go back and get recertified. So they could, until we do a new academy, they could be in there a long time.
Have you ever considered doing a recruitment class in San Pedro or in the Valley? I mean, you always have them here downtown, and I wonder if the logistics make it harder to,
It's something we can consider.
I think I'm going somewhere on the question about the expiration of the certification. And I did have a conversation with Councilmember Englander, who is the council member who is a reserve police officer. And part of what I'm trying to work on for the commission has to do with the entire recruitment and the process. So would you characterize it as harder, a complication, a discouragement if I have applied and I have gotten my medical certification, but the academy, the Reserve Academy that I'd need to go in doesn't coincide. I don't know what it takes to be medically recertified. I don't know if that ends up being tough, a hardship, discouraging me. How do we make those, or how do you, how have you found maybe sometimes the misalignment, I'll call it? Does that complicate, does that discourage applicants? Do you find that that is ever?
I'm absolutely sure it discourages applicants because it's a very cumbersome process to get through our background check, and medical is just one aspect of it. But when they get through and they're ready to go, we can't start an academy with 2 people or 3 people. It's just not feasible.
So I'm going to suggest, Mr. President, that a part of what we're taking a look at as a commission in terms of the recruitment process is that we also include the reserve officers, because they're both handled by personnel. They're both 24/7 armed. Well, some of them are armed officers, and I'd just like to understand.
We have a meeting with personnel every 2 weeks, and we go over the exact numbers, where everybody is in the process, including the reserves, whether they're at the background, or whether they're at the polygraph, or whether it's the medical or psych, and how all that works, and where the numbers are, and who falls off, and for what reason. And they have many categories, and they track all that stuff. So it is very complicated, but that problem that you addressed is a significant problem, that I'm ready to go, and there are just not enough people to do it.
Well, we're doing an analysis right now of the overall process, so it might be helpful if we can include, oh, and here's my
partner in crime.
Partner in crime. Can you?
Good morning. Yes, I'm Sandy Jo MacArthur, and I just want to share just a little bit because Tom is new to the seat. First, on the recruiting side. Whenever we go out and do our recruiting, the police department goes out and does recruiting, we're recruiting both for reserves and full-time. Because many times we have people say, I'm not sure. So we always have the information there. What we want to do is start to pair up with Tom's team to actually be an individual at the table. But we do recruiting all over the city. Personnel department usually has the fixed locations, one in the Valley and one downtown, for their piece of the recruiting pie, which we've talked about in the past. Good. In terms of all the standards, they have to be in unison when we look at them as a group, because their standards are the exact same as ours. We have had in the past, before Tom got this, problems with people being interested and falling off before we could get a class going. 2 years ago, we were having problems with POST, which is Police Officer Standards and Training, approving our course. That has since been rectified. And actually, Martin Baeza was behind that before he left and went to Hollenbeck. So hopefully, we'll see less of that being a problem. But it absolutely needs to be included as a whole, reserves and full-time, when we're looking at it, at the recruiting, the background, the medical, and all of that.
Great, thank you.
Good.
Thank you.
Sounds great. Any other questions? Thanks, guys. Good job. So you're always looking for more. You're always looking for more reserve officers.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Great. Great program.
Item number 8C, Department's Report dated October 31st, 2013, relative to the Blake Justice Consent Decree, fiscal year 2012-2013 annual report.
And you know, while you guys are up after 8C, I would like you, even though we've already approved 8D, I'd like you to give the presentation that you were going to give on 8D.
Yes, I do want to say one thing. One of our reserves who came full-time is Chief Charlie Beck, for our new commissioners who may not have known that. He is one of the reserves who was a reserve officer for 3 years, I believe, Chief, or 2?
2 years.
2 years. So he's our highest-ranking reserve. That's what we always claim.
Doesn't get any higher than that.
Can't get any higher than that. I didn't mean to backtrack.
One of you can become a reserve. Then you'd have a higher rank.
My shoes are shined well enough, I can tell you that.
I wasn't sure.
You'd have to resign from the commission.
And I will, on the point of the commission's questions, you know, Tom and Mark did a good job, so I didn't want to step on their presentation, but the reserve requirements are very strict. You know, when I went through, it was a 6-month academy, and then I worked the field in Rampart for 2 more years, and then when I got accepted as a regular police officer, I had to go right back through the academy again, another, I think then it was only 5 months, but it might have only been 3 months, I forget. But the there's a lot of duplication. They have streamlined that to
Yes,
some extent
yes.
now, so nobody has to go through quite as
That's
much
correct.
training as I did.
That's correct. It's really a 2-month and sometimes even less, depending on how recently the recruit or the reserve, and that was actually at the chief's request that we look at that. And it was just one of those things. That's how we always had done it. So we looked at it, and we now do streamline the processing for. It's very similar to a
Lateral.
person who laterals. Yes.
C.
Blake Justice. This is a report that the department provides, and it relates to a consent decree from 1977. And the little history was in 1971, the then police chief decided there should no longer be police women and made a statement
No
that
longer be what, Jerry?
police women.
Women should no
Must
longer.
not be women on the job, period. And I'm not sure he was being facetious or what he was doing, but, well, it was 1971. That's what he said. There was a lawsuit brought in 1973, and after a number of court appearances where case was dismissed and went through the process, the federal government came in and a U.S. Department of Justice came in, and there was a consent decree relating to hiring women and minorities. And goals were set. And back in 1977, the goal was that they would hire 25% women per year so they could get the department's strength up to 20%, and they would hire 22.5% Hispanics and 22.5% blacks each year to bring that.
What year was that?
1977. And this consent decree is still in effect, and every year we produce these reports. And we are always very close to 20% for women. Never, every once in a while we get over it. Usually we hover right around it. As of May 19th, 2013, we were at 19.2%. We present this report that shows it by rank and deployment period, and also a list of and a chart of what happened in relation to the classes. Now you notice that we didn't have a class every year. Some of that was budget, some of that was we weren't provided with enough candidates by the personnel department to fill a class because, as they said, you don't want to have a class for 10 people. You want to have an optimum, I think the minimum number is 20, 25.
25 is what the minimum is.
And the maximum would be like 50 or 60, depending on, so that's where we are. We do the recruitment. Personnel then begins the background checks and preliminary call. Well, I know Commissioner Madison's well aware of the process. Let me just finish. There was another consent decree that went along around the same time called Hunter LaLaye, which had to do with promotions. And we provided
Sorry, what was that called?
promotions.
Promotion.
The name of it.
Hunter LaLaye.
Hunter Lillet.
It was, LaLaye was the Hispanic Officers Association, and Hunter was,
African American.
yeah, I want to say Thomas Hunter, but I don't remember what his first name was, and they joined in this lawsuit. And we present those reports. That consent decree has been lifted, but we still present reports to the commission relating to those numbers also, that the commission's aware of what's happening within the department with hiring and promotions. And we have a number of procedures in place in relation to that where we audit to make sure that things are being done appropriately. Sorry.
No, the only point that I wanted to add is Blake Justice is against the City of Los Angeles, and therefore the majority of the focus of Blake Justice is at the Personnel Department. But we work very closely with them, and then what we monitor from the department's perspective, as Jerry said, is the numbers that we actually have on our roster. So the Personnel Department is responsible for having, getting the people prepared to come into the academy, and those are the lists that they look at regarding the numbers of 25% women in classes to ultimately get to our internal goal of 20% women.
The demographics have changed dramatically since the numbers that you gave us. Well, I mean, you had 20% Latino, and LA is...
Yes.
double
The
that.
history is, at that time, the city was different.
Yeah, that's my point. So did the number change?
Yeah, no. The consent decree number stayed the same, but the number in the department satisfied the requirements of what the department was required, the city and the department were required to do, particularly in the Hispanic area, because now we're at 43, 44% of the department, and the incoming classes are usually over 50%.
So when you look at the report, not me looking at the report, when you look at the report, what are the challenges that you see?
Challenges, okay. The challenges are, part of the problem is now getting qualified candidates through the personnel department, and there's some discussion going on about how that should be done and what modifications should be made. There's certain areas where we struggle to recruit people, and that's particularly black females and others because of the history of the department in the past, because of job opportunities and others, although the department tries very hard with its recruitment efforts to do that. So there's always going to be some tension in trying to get the people you want into the department. And then the background checks, as you heard with the reserves, there are extensive. The background checks, the medical, psychological evaluations, the polygraph exam, because you want to make sure that coming in you get the right kind of people who, with the right training and the right supervision, will become good police officers.
So I'm going to ask a question, and I'm going to look at the city attorney. Because my question, we're working very closely, as we have been over the past few months, on the intake process, right? On the intake process. And that would deal with the Blake Justice portion of it, yes?
Yes.
And then the Hunter LeLay part will deal with the promotability, the promotion.
Yes.
Right. And what I was getting at last week, which I'm now going to restate in a different way, is out of context. So if I look at just this year or whatever the months are that are covered by this report, what I don't see is going back 5 years, 6 years, 7 years, 8 years. And then there must have been a point where, I'm going to apologize up front for this imagery, but like if a snake eats a mongoose, and as the mongoose goes through the snake's body, there is a bulge. There will be a bulge. And at some point there would have been a bulge of Latinos, maybe African Americans, maybe Asian Pacifics, but there'll be a kind of a bulge of people of color. And what I'm interested in seeing is what has been the outcome of when that large number, that infusion of people of color came in, and how did that translate to promotions? So when I just glance at what we had in the report, for example, we can get up to the level of maybe detectives, and we'll start to see, and we see the percentage of Hispanics, Latinos, who will outnumber Caucasians. But then we go up a little higher, we get to sergeants, lieutenants, captains, 2, 3, et cetera, commanders, and we don't see, what I'm trying to understand is where does it fall off? Because if we look at Latinos, it strikes me that there comes a point where you've got this critical mass, and this critical mass, this pool, should produce a greater number of promotability, a greater amount of promotability, and I'm not sure that I don't think I've seen this in this present report, and I don't want to, and before I go too far, what I'm getting at is I don't necessarily want to have you explain to me today by you citing numbers that I don't get to see.
I wouldn't do that.
Right. So, I mean today. So what I'm getting at is I would like a more comprehensive look. What I asked for last week was like a 10-year look. When did the larger number come in? And with that larger number, that pool, did we see a larger number of promotions of Latinos, African Americans, Asian Pacifics, and women?
Well,
because on this document, I'm not seeing that.
Well, if I can respond without using any numbers, just in general.
Okay.
The great influx happens gradually, has happened gradually, of particularly Hispanics, and it's gone from like 35 to 45% over a 10-year period. I'm sorry, I quoted a number. And the Hunter LeLay, to answer your question, Hunter LeLay was designed just for the purpose of promotions, and it did it by pools and who qualified for exams, and that's a much broader discussion, which I'm more than happy to have with you at any time you'd like, or any subcommittee the commission would like to appoint, and we can go through the whole area of how to do this, because it gets a little complex, and we can show you the numbers, and I have 10 years worth of data. I listen, I heard you wanted 10 years. So I got the 10 years, and I went through it and looked and saw what was happening and saw how, particularly with women, it stayed steady. But if you look, you'll see that as you go over the 10 years, the number of women, Hispanics, are being pushed up the department. They are promoting. I think the city attorney has some advice for you, or me. I know.
Okay, so the suggestion is that I just ask for a report that would be, so that we're not making ourselves crazy, let's do 10 years.
Okay.
And I'm hoping, I'm praying, that you understand what I'm looking for.
What I was about to suggest is I will do a report, but I will call you first, and you and I will talk, so that if that's okay with the commission, and make sure that we're on the same page.
And second request is because I don't claim to be a statistician, what I'd like to do, because I think somewhere in here on our team there are auditors who can actually go through and process from a more simple, by our team, I'm sorry, I meant the Inspector General. What I'm looking for is I don't know whether it's you do the report and then he does the analysis, but somewhere in here, what I'm looking for is just as simplistically as my pea brain can handle it, an understanding of, are we seeing, when we get to a police department that's 43% Hispanic, is it reasonable to expect that over X period of years, we should see at this level, this number of captains, this number of lieutenants, this number? I just would like to understand that. Or is there something else that we should be looking at in terms of the qualification exams, just as we're looking at in terms of the intake process?
There are a number of things that should be looked at. My background, I was an accountant and a mathematician, but I would be more than happy to cooperate with anybody you want. But first, I would appreciate if you and I could sit down and discuss it, and then have a report, and whenever this commission wants it, understanding that we have Thanksgiving and Christmas coming up. So be kind to all of us that have to work on this.
And the spirit of
you're
alacrity,
leaving,
I would
so
say, in
you
your
gotta-
retirement, so the
Well,
spirit of alacrity and
My
swiftness on-
retirement apparently is being delayed till now February.
Oh, good.
So we have some.
And I think it's important to recognize that much of this has been covered in Blake Justice
Yes.
documents in
Yes.
time
Yes.
past. The time that it takes for people, I think the phrase that we used to use was bubbling up.
Right.
You know, you have to have X number of years in service to be a sergeant. You have to have X number of years to be a lieutenant. It's expected that a chief would have X number of years. So you are always going to be following the bubble or the snake's belly, or however, whatever. you want to put it.
And a number of, 10 years ago, was it, that there were education requirements were added. We did a study of that to make sure that it wasn't disproportionately affecting people who would want to apply. And
A lot of this may be collecting things because with, prior commissions and
Yes.
prior chiefs have looked at this in a lot of different ways, and this may be something that, of a different way, but you should see what we've already done.
Sure, and I'm really looking for a forecast. Yeah. I'm really looking for well, to the extent that there are variables, and I get it, but one would presume that there's a certain level of ability of the people who are taking the exams. I'd like to, because I'm totally a novice about whether the civil service rankings and how all that happens, but I will admit to being a little surprised at the results that I'm seeing regarding the promotions, and I just want to understand if contained within a test or something, there might be a built-in bias. I have no idea.
as the chief stated, there's a number of things we've done, including that. I did that a few years ago in relation to the test because some issues, so we have that, but let me know when you want to explain it all to me, and I will, we'll come up with an agreement of what it is you want.
Perfect.
So you know that I understand it, and then we'll go forth.
Thank you.
We all, oh, go ahead.
I have a question, but if we're done with that
I
part
am.
of it.
Yeah, thanks.
Okay. So, police officers, they apply, they go through background checks, they get selected to go to the academy. And I was looking at those, the numbers where they get trained and then they graduate. But I wanted to know, those that don't make it through the academy, after they've gone through this whole process, they finally get in, and they have all these reasons for leaving the academy. Is there something, and because I don't know, that the department does, if they've gone through all of this, to support, for them to stay, something to help whatever, I know you can't do it with all of these, I saw the reasons, to retain them. They're
We do.
I just heard this saying yesterday. How did it go now? I forgot how it went. But it's, you want to keep the best. Those that go through, those are the ones you want. But if they've gone through all of this already, what is being done by the department to
second chance them?
To second chance them.
We second chance them all the time. We sign for them
Well,
to
I saw
immediately.
second and third and whatever.
Yeah, have you seen that, second and third? If they're going on the third, there's nothing we can do if it's their choice not to be here. No matter, and those numbers have actually improved. We used to have people walk in the door and we could have up to 5% leave the first week. This isn't what I thought it was. So we have a mentoring program. So once you get into the recruiting background process, we have mentors that really help the recruit along the way so that they really know what they're getting into, because that was the biggest complaint 5 years ago. They get into the academy and they didn't realize they might have to go out and shoot somebody, which is a little odd in the world of TV, that they didn't know that, but that was what we were being told. So we really have stepped up quite a bit. We oftentimes will, when people leave, we try to talk them into staying and giving it a little bit more of an opportunity, chance, especially if it's within the first 2 months. But we recommend them for rehire immediately. Sometimes if we know what they might need, we recommend they do A or B and then come back. Many times this is a very personal decision. Okay. And we have a lot of people that really do get into the tactics and firearms side of the shop, and then they have their own, they reevaluate whether or not this is what they can do. So we do look at all of that. We try to find out if there are things that we can do differently during training that would help to minimize some of the people who leave. So it is something that we look at all the time. If it is a situation, which we have had on some occasions, where people have left because of personal problems at home, we stay in touch with them to try to get them back in the process. And sometimes we can actually get them back in the process before some of their testing expires. So, and we have also found in some cases that we can give them assistance during the academy for their whatever the family need might be when the captain sits down. So every individual gets sat down with the captain before they leave to see if we can really identify, is there something we can do to keep you in the academy, and is there an employee assistance program that might be out there that we can help with. So we look at all of those things, and sometimes we're just baffled. We still don't understand why sometimes people leave, but we really do try to keep them in the process.
Thank you.
Have you noted any prevailing reasons for officers of color that are there any noteworthy patterns or trends with regard to reasons for leaving for officers of color?
For personal reasons, in terms of our minority women, their family pressure is very, very heavy on them.
Explain.
Their family does not support them becoming police officers in many cases, in our minority women. And I say in many cases, in many of the cases where people have left. And it's a tough go to get through an academy without support of the family. And some of it is first-generation immigrant. They come from a different world in terms of what policing is, and so they're afraid of it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's the fear of the danger of policing. Mm-hmm. But that seems to be a big component. And then in our African-American males, there is oftentimes pressure from peers that they grew up with. Again, and the people that leave, not the people that stay. And so I'm only speaking from, it's anecdotal, but we have seen this mostly in the minority women candidates. So we try to give them a lot of support in terms of peer support.
Yeah, mentorship is really
Mentorship, exactly, to help get them through that. Because the individuals who said that they had that struggle and stayed, their families have turned and been very supportive. So it's sometimes an educational process. We also do a family orientation so that we can bring in the family members so that they can see what the police academy is about, what the police department is about, and to see the support that their family member will be getting as they're joining the department. And the family orientation has been very helpful with some of our candidates as well.
I want to ask you about the input process.
I'm sorry?
The input process. You know, in baseball, you're never on if you're never up. And my question is that there is a lot of the process is done across the street.
Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
If more of the process were done on this side of the street, would the numbers be different? And if they, I know that this is not a all or nothing situation. It's a teeter-totter.
Yes.
And my hope would be that if the answer to that question is yes, it would be different, especially with African Americans, that we would have more input into the process. And I know you guys have been having meetings about that, and I keep getting grades of these meetings, and they range anywhere from B+ to C-. And I just wonder how it's going, because I think we should keep working on making this input process better for the department.
You know, maybe I should answer that.
Yeah.
Yes, we would achieve more diversity if we had more control, and maybe more importantly, if you weren't happy with the results, you could hold me accountable, rather than an amorphous entity somewhere down the street.
But I don't see how we could do that, because the city's got to loosen up and let us have more input.
No, that's what I'm saying. If the police department had more control over which candidates were accepted into the police academy, then not only do I think we would have better results, but then you and the people of the city could hold the police chief
I agree.
directly accountable for the results.
If I could add something.
So the question is, how do we affect that?
I think we're moving forward on that, and Commissioner Madison and Sandy Joe and Jerry have all been working diligently on that since the new commission's arrival. So we're making progress.
Up till 2000, that's the way it was.
Yeah.
Then a police commission president, myself, who shall remain nameless, me, voted with the commission to change that after the incidents at Rampart and the report that was issued, then 3 or 4 reports that were
But
issued.
I don't want to, when was that?
2000.
But we didn't take it over till 2002.
So I don't want in 2026.
No,
for me to come here and say we still haven't.
The point being is we're working on it as hard as we can. That was just a historical fact. One of us, me, knows he made a mistake and would do everything he can to rectify that mistake.
No, well,
I made a mistake. In hindsight,
we're concerned that the progress keeps continuing with these discussions. There be real progress.
I think the ball is being moved.
We should place blame.
Place blame. But the ball is being moved. It's not sitting on like the 50-yard line. It's moving down towards the goal line.
I think we had in our minds we had an informal goal of seeing some measurable progress by the beginning of the year. And of course, foolishly, at least me, I always forget that once you hit Thanksgiving, it's tougher. But I would characterize it as the relationship and the meetings have absolutely been collegial, and they've absolutely been productive. And I think we have made progress. We have many more items on our agenda.
Good.
And so we're working on that.
Good. Happy to hear that. Okay.
We do have one public comment card, sir. We have Jabril Mohammed.
Good morning, Commissioners.
Good
Chief.
Good morning.
This is Jabril Mohammed for Bismillah the Justice Movement. And listening to the report given in regards to Blake Justice is very interesting. And then we went back to Rampart. That was very interesting. And we are making efforts to analyze reasons for leaving and the disgruntled attitudes on the part of those. Everyone that leaves, they don't just resign. We just had an incident in February where an officer left, and when he left a trail of discontent. most wanted for some weeks, I understand. And he was leaving, and then he left. He left a memorandum, or I think it was what did they call it? A manifesto. Had we studied it, and this was an ex-officer, and he, in his leaving, stated reasons. I think that we, as a public, as a community, we need to study what his grievances were, because they spilled over into incidents that were homicidal. And here again, the psychological profiles, we are not made aware of them. We need more of that. But however, we need to study that case scenario in regards to the incident that happened in February where the officer was trapped up in Big Bear or wherever that was, and come to terms with that. That's the more current event. Thank you for your time.
Move to approve 8C, item 8C, but Paula, did you want to add on the request for?
Yes. So my request is that we have a study that would take a closer look over a 10-year period, and the details and the elements of the study we would, I don't know if we can do this, we would develop after consultation with Mr. Chaliff.
This should be part of the motion? Or what?
You don't need to make that part of the motion. You can move this item
Okay,
and then
let's
just
do that.
make the request and meet with the department on
Okay,
that.
so let's have a motion for approval of 8C.
Second.
No, you have to make the motion.
Yeah,
Do we have
I
a
thought I
second?
already made the
Second.
motion, but,
Okay.
yeah, I mean.
Okay, all those in
okay.
favor?
Aye.
Okay, good. And then you guys are connected on that. We need a motion to reopen, is that the correct?
Reconsider.
Reconsider 8D, as long as you're here, because I would like to hear the
We need a motion
presentation.
and a
Do
vote.
we have a motion?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, thanks. As long as you're here.
I'm here.
Yeah.
Well,
That's,
let me just tell you the history of this.
Yeah.
As part of the consent decree in 2000, and as part of what was negotiated was a new procedure related to resisting arrest, 148,
Yeah.
what became known then as contempt of cop kind of arrest. And there was an issue that people were being arrested not for anything but other than the fact that they somehow had done something that irritated the officer. So we established some procedures in the consent decree that were then written into the manuals, one of which is every arrested or detained person brought to the facility had to be brought before the watch commander for inspection to see if they're injured, and to be asked 3 questions. Do you understand why you're arrested? Are you sick, ill, or injured? Do you have any questions? And then there had to be paperwork relating to that. So the audit that there was, one of the normal audits we do, was conducted based on those rules, both for juveniles and for adults. And the findings are on page 2. The executive summary is on page 2. So whatever questions you have, Jeff Phillips is here, who's the auditor. Captain Wakefield here is the officer captain in charge.
I want to ask before, we didn't have a whole lot of questions, but I just felt that it would be, it was worthwhile for you guys just to
But
present.
that's the history of why we have that.
Yes, good morning. And I just to say, we really didn't have any recommendations. We didn't find there were any real systemic issues. You know, so there were no recommendations made for this audit.
Basically, we're doing what we're supposed to.
Yeah.
Every once in a while, there'll be a lack of a notation on a detention log or something, but basically, we're doing what we're supposed to.
And well done. Do we have a motion for approval of 8D?
move to approve item 8D.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. We're now on item number 9, public comment. We have 2 public comment cards. We have Mr. Carl Scott, followed by Jabril Mohammed.
Looks like a much more interesting place to be the Inspector General.
Good morning, Commissioners. My name is Carl Scott, and I'm a community organizer with Los Angeles Community Action Network. We work in the downtown and South Los Angeles area with a focus on the Skid Row community. The reason for my testimony here today is because LA CAN has now come several times to speak to you at public comment concerning the Safer City initiative that's here in Skid Row. Several weeks ago, we left each commissioner a package filled with information concerning the SCI policies, which has been going on for the past 8 years. A couple of weeks after that, we returned with our request and provided additional testimonies about particular negative impacts of the SCI projects on the women. Residents are very concerned about this issue because Skid Row is among the safest community in all of the LAPD district. Yes, a lot of allocated of SCI officers remain. The over-concentration of officers has led many civil and human rights violations, which has been documented by professors and even investigators from the United Nations. Despite our testimony, our written requests and documentation to each of you, and email requests to Mr. T. Fank, we have yet to receive any response at all. We cannot understand how the most heavily policed community in the city is overlooked in the scheduling of numerous community-based meetings and forums. We just had a presentation earlier about community organizations and forums that you had. We are very concerned about residents, and we look to you, commissioners, to represent us on this issue. Our request is simple, that the commission, or at least one or two of you, agree to attend to a community forum here in Skid Row community so that you can hear directly from the impact residents about your Safer City initiative. And we look forward to meeting with you to further discuss this matter and hear your thoughts about scheduling and planning the forum. Thank you very much for your time and concern. And I'd like to leave this for each one of the commissioners.
Thank you. Jibril Mohammed, please.
Jaretta, did you have a comment card up here? Our new.
She left.
Oh, did she leave? Oh, I didn't see.
Again, thank you, commissioners. Good morning. Jabril Mohammed for Bismillah Justice Movement. This is pretty much a testimony in regards to the public, which I represent, and the sentiments in terms of the Commission's commitment. To serve and protect is the mantra that we anticipate being fulfilled. However, me personally, as a member of the community, I've gone unserved. Now, how do we address this? How do we take in consideration a complaint on the part of a member of the public? You know, we as the public need an education as to how we can best use those tools given to us as such, the public administrators, such as yourselves, how we can take these tools and make these tools work to better serve not only ourselves, but the administration. This is a conundrum, and I'm willing to be the crash dummy, so to speak, in this regard. I want to be the person that comes to terms with how this is done, how the commission is addressed. I would like very much to hold some workshops for us as the public, like the commission so suggested that we hold workshops that be, how can I say, audited by the city attorney's office for the sake of overviewing commission. We would like, as the public, to have the same type of workshops so that we can, in fact, have an opportunity to overview the commission. So we need the insights in regards to the Brown Act and other regulations so that we can best present and propose regulation as well as guidance and direction as members of the public to the administrators. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. We are now on item number 10, closed session. The Board of Police Commissioners will now recess into closed session to discuss item numbers 10A1 through 3 in accordance to various government codes.
never had a traffic accident like this before, where a teenager has decided to run from the police and been struck by a motor vehicle.
5859 KF 5060, watch 3.
Curfew laws restrict the right of juveniles to be outdoors or in the public places after 10 p.m. until sunrise the next day. Such laws aim to establish a safer community and to better protect people from becoming victims of crimes or becoming involved in a crime. Most people don't agree with our curfew laws and would rather run the risk of being picked up by the police and ticketed for violation of curfew. However, they are more likely to run into the many real dangers that face us every time we go out at night.
We have found that kids out so late are normally caught up in violence, traffic accidents, and that's no good. Some of these kids still they're not aware of the law, and they're not educated on it.
Drinking, drugs, sexual predators, and gang-related activities are only few of the dangers we face regardless of how young or old you are. If you are under the age of 18, this law applies to you. What happens if you are caught? You will be taken to the station where the ticket is written out to you and your parent or guardian are called to pick you up. If your parent cannot pick you up, you will be placed into a protective custody or sent to a juvenile facility.
They have to be with a parent or guardian at something like an event such as Cabrillo Beach.
The guardian is not just someone appointed to by the parents. A guardian is someone appointed by the courts.
You can legally stay out late if you are participating in a religious, educational, or political